But this one's very interesting. I don't think we've talked about this topic on the show, so I want to make it in and sneak it in really, really quick. I got Steven calling in from Mississippi. Steven, I know you've been waiting for a while here, but I'm getting you in right at the end of the show. What do you got for us?
Hey, fantastically, Dan. Glad you saved the best for last, my brother.
That's right.
Aaron, too.
Please don't prove me wrong on that, Steven.
So, I mean, I've been digging down a rabbit hole, and I don't know how I can make this a fast call. It's a super interesting topic for me. But I've been an atheist in Mississippi for the last 10 years, and I have been listening and watching to Uncharted X YouTube videos about Egypt. And there are some things out there that really are blowing my mind. There are, the scoop marks around the unfinished obelisk. There are the fact that they're lifting stones that are incredibly heavy. I'm a crane operator, so, I know what it takes to lift 1 million pounds, and they could not have done that, and yet they did over and over again. All of that fascinates me. I love how, I don't know how they could have done it. My idea is that maybe the moon was closer, maybe like 250,000 years ago. Gravity was different. Maybe, I don't know. But what I asked you guys about in the call screener was the schist disk. And if you Googled it, SHIST disk, it's quite fascinating. If you look at this stone, it looks like a piece of machinery. It is incredibly thinly carved. The way they design it, it's perfectly symmetrical. It looks like something you couldn't have built today. I don't think anybody can build it today. It'd be hard to build it out of steel. Maybe I'm seeing the printer.
Let's talk about this real quick. First of all, wait, I just want to correct yourself. Did you say 250,000 years ago, or did I mishear you there?
I'm just guessing. Who knows when Atlantis and all that stuff happened? Yeah, do you really think we only went back 100,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago? I don't
think the Egyptians went back that far.
Back a lot.
No, I think humans have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, but in hunter-gatherer societies, I think Egyptians are one of the oldest civilizations that we have evidence of, but it definitely doesn't go back that far. And even as far back as it does go, I don't think it goes far enough to know that the moon was different enough to affect gravity on Earth. I don't know about that.
You don't think it's possible that the Egyptians just acquired or inherited some structures? Like a lot of these stones that just fit way too good. They're just perfectly fit around corners.
Are you claiming that this technology means that the ancient pyramids were built by non-humans? Is that what you're claiming?
Yeah, inherited by aliens, like on Earth.
Okay. Because it seems I don't know. Because I pulled up a picture of this schist disk.
It is interesting.
Say that 20 times fast, and it looks like it's made out of stone. If aliens were here, why would they make it out of stone? Why wouldn't it be made out of metal or some of the more durable?
I also want to note that the first image that comes up on Google is a reproduction. It isn't the real one. So
I'm on this ancientpages.com website. It's got pictures of it in a museum.
So if you were to have something built out of metal or wood, it would not have lasted that long. The stone is all we have from that time period. And I think that the Egyptians actually acquired technology and they took stuff from later generations. So I think that it's possible that human civilization or something, who knows, maybe Neanderthals or something, that was building things way before we think they did. But look at the unfinished obelisk. They have the scoop marks underneath it. They're perfectly straight line scoop marks. The Serapeum with these giant sarcophaguses underground that are so heavy, it would take a team of 200, 250 people to move them if you were lucky. But there's not enough oxygen down there. They would have died. There's no way to move them. There's no physical way to move some of this stuff. These objects, there's no way that we could do that today.
So
I'm gonna call skeptic. I'm not sure.
There's a lot to go on here. Can we talk about Atlantis real quick? Because you mentioned Atlantis. Are we saying the aliens made Atlantis, or ancient humans were in Atlantis and then they just went to Egypt? Can we talk about that? Because that sounded fun.
I've been thinking about this for over 2 years, and it's a fun rabbit hole to go down. But let's just say Atlantis was Antarctica. It's the only continent on our planet that connects all of the continents. It connects Africa, South America. It's centered, and we can't study it because it's under ice and it's all these rules against it. But how do we know once all the ice thaws with global warming and whatnot that we find out that there actually are pyramids and all kinds of stuff under Antarctica? I mean,
how do we know that there are there now? What would make me believe that there's pyramids in Antarctica right now? Like, why would I believe that?
Well, you really can't. I mean, just like any religion, it's a belief, you know. But I mean,
well, sure, I'm assuming you believe that, right? Like, I think that's your speculation. Like, so why do you speculate that that's true?
I am speculating 100%. I don't know that it's a full belief, but I am very much speculating that it's possible, and it's because of ancient high technology, like the shift stick, like the scoop marks, like the serapeums, and these stones all across the planet that are put together. Say you have a stone wall that's built perfectly with no mortar. These stones are laid absolutely perfectly, and they have these weird angles. Sometimes they go around corners. Sometimes they're it's odd cuts. And it seems like if you were to design a block, you would just do squares. That's, the logical solution. But they didn't do that. It almost seems like it was easy for them to move these or mold them or cast them, whatever they did. I'm
not sure I buy the movie, because if I put my car neutral on level ground, it weighs 2,000 pounds and I can push it because it's on wheels. So
yeah,
I think a bunch of people can get together and move heavy objects. I mean, I've seen groups of people lift cars, like 4 or 5 people can lift a car together. So
pounds.
a million pounds.
The obelisk is a million pounds, maybe 2 million. I don't know about the math on it. It's very heavy. And I'm a crane operator. I know what it takes to move something like that. And you're talking about not just moving, you're talking about transporting it thousands of miles. They have to lift it up out of the quarry and run it over rough terrain, and then eventually they have to stand it up.
Yeah, I'd have to check on the story on all that.
Oh yeah, Uncharted X.
See how they moved it and pulled it up.
To promote some other channel, but holy cow.
And what's Uncharted X's background? Do they study this stuff, or are they just somebody online? Or because I'd like to go to someone who's actually studied ancient Egypt, and knows, and spent their life studying it and looked at what other people have done. And who's this person on YouTube?
I would say that it's as close to a study as you can get. I mean, heck, it's more realistic study than most Christians will offer you. But if you watch some of his videos, I think your mind will be blown, as mine has. I can go on about this stuff.
I'm pretty sure my mind would be blown, but I'm also pretty sure that the video is just gonna be claim after claim after claim after claim after claim, with no evidence to back it up. I could be wrong, but you're making a lot of claims about all this unique, cool stuff that Egypt couldn't have done.
3D
but there's not
of a vase
doesn't seem to be a lot of evidence to support your claims.
I mean, I believe that there is a lot of evidence to it. I can't say it's enough evidence for me to say it's a fact. I think we need to study it a lot more. But I think that a lot of people have been ignoring and shutting down this on a religious basis. We feel like, humans have only been around in a civilized fashion for 10, 20,000 years. I feel like we've gone back much further than that.
Let's think about this.
I want to say something real quick, Dan. I'm pretty sure if somebody could prove that the ancient Egyptians were using technology that they shouldn't have been using, no matter what the religion is. Well, first of all, there's probably at least one person who doesn't care, regardless of the religion. But even if they were, that's a pretty big scoop. That's a pretty big story that somebody would have to want to sit on. And I just can't believe that there's not one person to study this stuff that wouldn't want to be famous for knowing this stuff, and discovering it. Dan?
There's a lot to say about this. We have to understand that our current understanding of human history is revolutionary, right? There's already people that don't accept that narrative. The idea that human beings have been around for hundreds of thousands of years and not just a few thousand, like that was already revolutionary in its field. There's also lots of controversial theories in anthropology about human origins that exist already. You know about aquatic ape hypothesis? I mean, that's by like real reputable people posting some of that stuff out there, which is pretty wild. But the thing about ancient Egyptian construction techniques and other kinds of ancient civilizations building processes, there's a particular narrative that gets spun about these. In the one narrative being, there's this other story that's being told here that's being repressed, and the mainstream doesn't want to hear about this. May I suggest to you that there is perhaps another story as to why that narrative exists? And I'm going to point you to a man called Eric von Däniken. Eric von Däniken. Däniken. You know of him. Wrote a book called Chariot of the Gods, right? Still goes on History Channel, I'm pretty sure. Like, talks about ancient alien stuff. I mean, he's the godfather of a lot of this stuff, right? These ideas that the ancient aliens actually knew about, the ancient Egyptians knew about aliens and stuff, and they helped do these things. And how can these cultures, build this stuff? It doesn't make sense. There is a lot about Egyptian architecture in particular that we don't have the exact understanding of their construction techniques, etc. And that is absolutely true. But to posit that it has to be extraterrestrial in origin, I would say is just as problematic as any religious assertion, right? I mean, what are we saying that there's another grand conspiracy here of aliens meeting with certain people at certain times and don't meet with the rest of us?
Why would
I would posit that.
How many times?
Go ahead.
How many times has Christianity or the victors of any war destroyed the evidence of any past civilization? Just look at what we did to the Native Americans. We destroyed all of their history. I mean,
this is true.
Eric von Däniken talks about the going in, say, South Carolina. They have the teardrop-shaped lakes in South Carolina that look like an asteroid impact 10,600 years ago at the Younger Dryas period, where we're talking about North America was an ice sheet. It was a 2-mile thick ice sheet, and they say that an asteroid impacted North America and caused a flash flood, which melted all of the ice, and that is where you get the biblical flood stories, because 2 miles thick of ice melted in the matter of 100 years.
We're talking about something else entirely, right? I mean, these are other ideas about human history. But just going back to Eric von Däniken, right? Eric von Däniken did not get his information from going to Egypt and studying the culture and working with Egyptologists. He literally wrote one of his books in prison. The dude is has been charged with embezzlement and stuff, right? Like, this is a dude that just wrote a story about a possibility.
Yeah.
His idea of this being all true has just as much basis as any religious phenomenon. It's just a story, an interpretation of events. It's not based on any hard science or hard evidence. It's just a speculative what if, right? And Eric von Däniken's not alone in this kind of assertion.
I think it'd be cool. I mean, I'd love it if this was all true. Cool story. That'd be awesome to realize that ancient aliens had been here and we weren't alone. But I'm gonna wait for experts who spend their lives studying this stuff to come to that conclusion, because I don't have time to study this stuff. And sure, I can go online and look at videos, but I'm going to be skeptical of videos on YouTube unless I know their source. I got to know where the information is coming from and who's saying it, why they're saying it, what they've spent their life studying, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Uncharted X actually goes through and shows you the evidence himself. He goes to Egypt. He goes to Washington State. He shows you the stuff itself, the stones, and he puts these through laser technology with engineers from NASA, and just shows how this stuff is way more precise. And I know he goes off in the left field talking about geometry and all that shit, but I don't know if I'm right about the Eric Von Däniken guy. It might be a different guy saying this, but in Washington State, up above California, there are ancient waterfalls that are just massive, like way bigger than Niagara Falls. Just huge cliffs that were obviously waterfalls. And all of this could be the source of the global flood stories that we hear from so many cultures. And
Stephen, that's a different thing. That's a different thing. I get that there's a lot of rabbit holes with this stuff. Uncharted X, I don't know anything about him. What I do know, just by Googling him, is that he's a YouTuber, and I'd be curious to see what sources he has on this. But when you're talking about folks like Eric Von Däniken, who don't even have a relevant degree in anything that they're talking about, you got to be really careful with this stuff, because there are scammers and there are people out here just to make money off of a story. And I would be worried that this is another example of that, just because they want to get you hyped up on this stuff that, nobody's talking about it because they're suppressing the truth, right? I mean, it's one of the oldest tricks in the book.
Googled Eric Von Däniken. It's definitely not who I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I don't have the names. I just Googled Eric Von Däniken. Definitely.
Well, the reason why I brought him up, Stephen, is because this isn't revolutionary, right? This isn't like cutting edge. Eric Von Däniken wrote those books like decades ago. And he was one of the fathers of this modern ancient aliens movement, right? Like there's a presence in popular culture. I just looked this up on Wikipedia. You know how many copies that book sold? Hit Chariot of the Gods, 63 million copies worldwide. That's not being suppressed. It was translated in 32 different languages. There's no world government trying to stop that information. This is just a fiction. This is just entertainment for people. This isn't rooted in anything science or history related at all. It's just got people writing books. I think that's where a lot of this comes from. But I don't know about this other YouTuber. I'm sorry to say, Stephen. I can't comment on that. But look, we are at the end of the show.
If you started watching any of, I get you. If you watched any of the videos from Uncharted X, I think you would really enjoy the rabbit hole that will bring you down. And it's definitely not Eric Von Däniken. I'm sorry.
I get you. Maybe on my other show, Zadanza, I'll give it a watch. We'll do a live reaction and we'll give it a talk. We don't do video reactions on this show, but maybe we can talk more about it so I can speak more expertly to what I'm reacting to. But we are like way over time here, Stephen. I do got to let you go. I'm glad I got to talk to you about it today, though. Maybe in the future we can talk about more specific historical ideas and we can like narrow down a topic. And I think that would be a fruitful conversation. But if we're jumping all over the place, it's hard to keep track of what's going on.